Hi, it's Chris, and this is my review of today's reading of Reading Through the Bible in a Year Chronologically, October 22nd. We have Matthew 20, 1 through 16, Mark 10, 32 through 34, Matthew 20, 17 through 19, Luke 18, 31 through 34, then Mark 10, 35 through 45, and Matthew 20, 20 to 28, and then Matthew 20, 29 through 34, Mark 10, 46 through 52, Luke 18, 35 through 43, Luke 19, 1 through 10, and then 11 through 27. Anyway, so the first one was the story of the vineyard workers. This is a pretty interesting story, and I've used this illustration before. This one makes sense to me. I get it. That's the story of the vineyard owner who hires people in the morning and says, hey, this is how much I'll pay you. Is that good? Yep. Then he hires people a little while later, and then a little while later, and a little while, and then towards the very end of the day, he hires another group of people that hadn't been working. He hires them, they come in, they do their work, and at the end of the work day, they come in to get paid. And he says, okay, you guys that showed up last, come in. All right, here's your day's pay. Give them a full day's pay. And then did likewise for every single person. And the people that were there at the beginning of the day, they're like, hey, how come you're paying them more? We did way more work than they did. And the vineyard worker says, or the vineyard owner goes, hey, well, I didn't short you any. Is it not my money to be able to say whether or not you get paid more? And again, he didn't short anybody, but he blessed those that came in later because they did provide work. And same thing it is with the kingdom of heaven, that it doesn't matter when you get in, you're in. And that is a great reward. And then Jesus predicts his death. That's in three different, that's Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And then Jesus teaches about serving others, that last will be first, and we see that in Mark, Matthew, and we see where James and John are asking for that left and right in the kingdom. It's like, dude, you can't. The Father says that where you belong. And by the way, to get that, there's gonna be suffering. Are you ready to suffer? And it's yeah. Well, yes, you're going to drink of the cup of suffering that I'm going to drink of, but regardless, that's not my place to say. Jesus heals a couple of blind men, and then blind Bartimaeus, and then another blind beggar. It's three different stories: Matthew, Mark, and Luke. But it's the faith. The two people in Matthew reach out to Jesus. Bartimaeus reaches out to Jesus in Mark, but they call out for him, and Jesus has mercy on him. They called out, hey, okay, what do you want? You're calling out to me. What do you want? We want to see, or I want to see. Well, your faith has made you well. Ask. Again, it goes back to James. You have not because you ask not. That's the God we serve. Then we get the story of Jesus and Zacchaeus, the tax collector. The tax collector that finds Jesus. He finds salvation. He climbs up a sycamore tree to see Jesus. And Jesus calls him down. Zacchaeus, I'm going to eat at your place today. We're going to dine together. And he invites him in. And he sees what the real kingdom of heaven is all about with Jesus. And so he says, I've found this. And anybody that I've ever cheated, I want to pay back 4 times as much. I'm going to give half my stuff away. There is nothing in this world that's worth anything. My salvation is worth much more. And I don't want to harm anybody. And I want to make it right with people. That's what salvation does. When we find Jesus, he changes us. He found Jesus and he changed. We don't change to get to Jesus. It's not a works based. Our works come from our knowing Jesus. Know him. Perfect example of that. And then we get the story of the 10 servants that Jesus tells along the way. And I didn't realize that before. I've heard, I think there's variations of the story, but I hadn't realized it was, I've read this not that long ago. Luke 19, verses 11 through 27. It said the crowd was listening as they're getting near Jerusalem. And he told them a story to correct the impression that the kingdom of God would begin right away. That's interesting. And he compares it, and he's comparing himself to a nobleman who was called away to a distant empire to be crowned king and then returned. That's Jesus. He was going to be crowned king and then return, but he would go away first, and Jesus was going away first. He was about to die. He was about to leave this world. And he goes away, and as he's going away, he says, "Hey, I'm going to give you something. I'm going to give you a great wealth. Go do something with it. I'm going to give you these gifts." Jesus gives us gifts. How are we handling it? And he says, some of the people that were around him said, "Hey, we don't want this guy as our king." But it doesn't matter because he comes back kinged. And when he comes back, the 10 people that he gave money to at this point, or gifts to, what did you do with your gifts? What did you do with your gifts? Jesus is going to ask us what we did with our gifts. And the first one says, "Hey, I invested your gifts, and I multiplied that gift by 10 times. I started with 1, now I have 10. And here you go." Oh, and the king comes back, says, "Great, I'm giving you 10 cities." And then the second one, 5. And then the third one says, "I just hid your money, here's your money back." And he says, "You fool, why didn't you just give it to a banker, at least collect interest?" He didn't do anything with it. He did less than nothing. He hid your gift away. That's a terrible thing. And he tells everybody else, "Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that money that I gave him, and I'm going to give it to the one that has 10. Because he can do something with it. You can't do anything with it if you're not trying to do anything with it." And then the people, he says, "By the way, all those people that didn't want me as king, bring them in. They're gone. They're dead. They're gone." And that's either you love Jesus or you find him, you seek him, you know who he is, you accept him as the king, the Lord of your life, or you reject him because you don't think he's good enough or you think you know better. He's king. And when he comes back to judge, he's either a king or he's not. And if you're not in the kingdom. Pretty plain and simple. So anyway, get to know Jesus, and he is the granter of things. Ask and you shall receive wonderful things.